In this video, we will demonstrate on how you can add a smart control to your application. A smart control can be a listbox, dropbox, grid, or multi-line. With smart controls, you can set up columns and filter records by using a simple query list definition. Once enabled, it can be triggered to load a data set. In this example, we want to display a list of menu items based on the subsystem. In your application, it may be a list of invoices for a particular customer. For this video, we will be using a listbox for our smart control. To start, we go into our screen designer and call up the subsystem library. Because the smart control is based on a query, we go to our toolbar and select the New Query button. We give our new query a name. For this example, we will use query list as our query type, although both types of queries will work. We now need to define the database or table for our query. The table and all the file elements are now displayed in the query list definition. We now need to add columns to our query, so we select name and description from the list of file elements. We now click the test button from the toolbar to see what our query looks like. Once we're happy with our query, we now need to save it. Now that the query has been defined, we need to go into our screen and make the appropriate changes there. We first go into the panel designer and change the height of the screen from 10 to 20. We need to move our buttons to the bottom of the screen. We select them, move them down, so that the list box will now fit in our screen. From the Controls toolbar, we select the list box icon. From the Display tab of our list box Properties dialog, we select the Report View as our type. We set the position and size of our Report View list box. On the Attributes tab, we uncheck Tab Stop, we check Auto Column Size, we turn on the Full Line Highlight, and we check Auto Load. Checking Auto Load is what makes this a smart control. And in the Query tab, we now select the query that we set up earlier. If we go back and run our application, we now have a list box. But there are still a couple of things that need to be done. First, you will notice that we have a subsystem of GL, but in our list box, we are displaying the entire file. Secondly, if we click into our list box, it will update the change flag. Now let's go fix these two issues. Back to our listbox control, in the Logic tab, we set the no change value for the listbox. Now when I go back to my application and click in the listbox, the change flag will not be updated. Back to the Attributes tab, we click the Triggers button. It is here where we'll be able to define which fields, when changed, will cause the listbox to refresh. This value will be passed to the associated query. In the Triggers dialog, we add our variable to the list of trigger values. This variable is the key to our table. We go back to our Define Query and select the Filter button from the toolbar. This will enable us to define the filter we want to use when displaying the list box in our application. In the Filter Selection dialog, we select the criteria to be used to filter what is displayed in the list box for the selected subledger code. If we go back to the application, only GL type records are now being displayed in the list box. Smart controls can be virtually added to any existing application screen where additional information needs to be displayed. You can save time in your coding efforts by letting smart controls do the work for you.